fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Deluxe Class Gamer Edition Sideswipe from the Transformers Studio series from Hasbro. Really excited for this release. I think he looks like a lot of fun. I actually just picked this up at my local Target today. They have a deal going on for Circle Week, 30% off all Transformers. And on top of that, for whatever reason, they're only charging $20 for Deluxes instead of $25, at least for Studio Series Deluxes. So it came up as $20. Then I got 30% off of that. And by the time I think it was all done, it was like 14 bucks. So can't go wrong with that. So front of the packaging here, really sturdy box, really nice artwork of Sideswipe in robot mode. Still the plastic-free packaging, so no window there. Same artwork here on the side for Sideswipe. Over here on this side, I believe that's the same artwork, just mirrored. I don't think there's anything different there. You have the D-pad there for the Gamer Edition. And then over here on the back, some nice product shots of the robot mode and the vehicle mode. So looking pretty cool. And then, of course, we got the Transformers War for Cybertron logo there on the top of the box. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this one. Going to go ahead, get him out of the box, and we'll take a closer look. Here's Sideswipe with the backdrop that's included. It's nothing special. It's just kind of a generic part of Cybertron from the game, you know, some broken pipes and whatnot. Nothing super exciting, but he fits into the space decently well. With the giant backpack, unfortunately, it does kind of knock into it, though, and tend to kind of push that backwards. You can try to bring him forward a little bit to mitigate that, but if you bring him too far forward, then he's going to just fall off. So it's an alright backdrop, and he fits in the space alright. So taking a close-up look at Sideswipe, I think he looks pretty good for the most part. I mean, he does have a pretty giant backpack here. It compresses decently enough into the back that it's not too much in the way. Does get in the way of articulation for the waist, though, which is kind of a bummer. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the way they decided to do the feet. Surprisingly, though, he does stand pretty well with them because they are so big. He has a pretty good base. He doesn't have ankle tilt, though, but they're kind of done at an angle just so you can kind of put him there. But unfortunately, because of that, it does limit posability, so that's a bummer. And I don't know, I just don't really love the look of them. But for the most part, I think he looks pretty good. I mean, the last time we got a War for Cybertron Sideswipe, it was just a repaint of Jazz, and so it didn't 100% look like Sideswipe. But this one actually looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this for the most part. Chest is some really nice silver paint here with the Autobot symbol, I think looks really good. Head sculpt is great. You can definitely tell that's supposed to be Sideswipe with his kind of telltale little horns. The blue eyes, the paint on the blue eyes, I think is really sharp. It's a little difficult to see from certain angles, though, because the rest of his helmet kind of casts shadow, but nice silver paint there for the face. And I think the face sculpt is pretty good. Head's on a ball joint, so you can tilt a little bit side to side, look side to side, no problem. Look up slightly, look down slightly. Overall, I think it's a really good head sculpt. I like these little pieces here on the back. I think that's very reminiscent of how he appeared in the game. This is a separate piece in the box. There's just a peg here that you just peg it onto. Very simple, no issue whatsoever. Just pop that on there. You do have pretty much the entire hood of the car, but it's got some nice silver paint there. You do have the wheels, which have some nice red paint on them. These will not move because these little pieces kind of lock them in place. Now, this is kind of a weird choice to me, but it appears that the forearm is done entirely in the gray plastic and then painted. And I don't really know why they did that. I guess just because this little piece here had to be gray, and the tab, and they just painted the whole thing. It's not, honestly not terrible, and it matches the rest of the maroon pretty well. I like the little bit of silver here. Mine's a little blotchy in spots, not terrible, but I don't know, that just seems like a weird choice to me. You can kind of see there's kind of some spots around, but for the most part, it's not too bad. You do have a waist swivel. Actually, let me go through the arms first. So we have the ball joint at the shoulder that can go out to the side, move front to back. You have a bicep swivel, I would say over 90 degrees there in the elbow. The wrists fold into the forearm, so unfortunately there's no wrist swivel there. And then you can move the backpack out of the way a little bit, and then that way that will allow you to access the waist swivel. Although the waist swivel is kind of up here, you can see where the mushroom peg is. So it might knock the chest a little bit out of the way as well. You can kind of see it moving a little bit there, but you do get a waist swivel as long as you move that backpack out of the way, and it kind of clips back into place there. Speaking of moving the backpack out of the way, for the hips, if you want to go back at all, you're going to have to move that out of the way. But you can kick pretty far forward and pretty decently out to the side. Now again, if you move the backpack here, unclip that, you can kick pretty far forward. So the motion is there. It's just that this kind of gets in the way. You do have a thigh swivel. You have, I would say, over 90 degrees in the knee because of how it transforms. And again, no ankle tilt. Technically, you can have him kick forward because of the transformation. Can't really go back, and that's to give the ankles stability. And then again, no ankle tilt. So, yeah, I don't know. Just the way the feet were done in general, I think is a little weird. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how he turned out. And he does have a giant gun accessory, which I think looks pretty good. Got the magazine there. And of course, this can, if you pop the arm off, and mine's really tight, probably because it's been painted on the inside there. So we'll see how that holds up over time. But we can pop this on instead, like so. And that looks pretty good, I think. I like him there with the gun arm. I think that's pretty cool. Now, something we saw with Starscream, he could actually hold the weapon if you didn't want him to pop it onto his arm. And assuming I can get this back into place here. Really snug, but there we go. He doesn't really have a traditional peg like Starscream did, but there is this little tab here, which is mostly used for storage in the vehicle mode and things. But technically, he can hold onto that peg. It will kind of pop into his hand. And so if you like that look a little bit better, now it's going to have the magazine out to the side instead of underneath. But that's the only place that the peg is. But technically it will kind of fit in his hand. So if you want to utilize that for him to hold it instead of replacing the arm, you have that option. Otherwise, there is a tab slot right there, which we can tab this in. I don't think it matters. I think you could tab it in like this, or I think you can tab it in like this. However you want to store the weapon on the back. I don't think it matters. But yeah, overall, like I said, the robot mode, not perfect, but not bad. And then just for fun, because I have to, here is Sideswipe with Bumblebee concept art Sunstreaker. Now, they're not from the same media, but they kind of feel like they could go together. They're both Cybertronian forms, so I think that's kind of cool. Although, surprisingly, when putting them next to each other, Sideswipe is considerably bigger, both in width and height, than Sunstreaker. But I still think if you wanted these two to work together, it absolutely could. And I think Evan on the Hasbro team even said he wanted them to be in the same wave together for that reason. They're not from the same media, but they are both Cybertronian forms, so if you want them to work together, they kind of can. Alright, so getting into the transformation, we're going to start off by taking the hands and just swiveling them into the forearms. And then you're actually going to rotate the forearms 90 degrees so that the hands are now facing forward. So you can see that you just rotated them in just like that. Going to come around to the back and start popping the backpack out here. And then you can rotate this piece 180 degrees and that'll just kind of hang out there for the minute. Then you can unhook the chest piece and that will kind of fly all the way forward. And then when you do that, it will allow you to unhook this section. So you can see this tab was tabbed into this piece. So I know the arms are kind of in the way. We can unhook these and then flip up these gray pieces. And then I can actually bring these down so you can see what I'm talking about a little better with the way the head was connected. So you can see that was like that, and you just disconnect that like that. Now you kind of have to bring this in so that you can rotate the head. Now it will have a little bit of difficulty clearing, but then you can tuck that all the way in and you'll be good to go. So this is where it gets interesting. So you have to bring this up and then unhook this. That's hooked onto there, so you can see that there was a little tab and that was pegged into that. So you want to kind of leave this like this because you need space here. So you want to leave it like that. Stay up there. Then you're going to take these and these are going to come up and fit into this space between. And it can be a little weird at first. I remember when I was looking at the directions, I really didn't understand how this was supposed to work, but they will actually fit in between there. So I know the arms are kind of in the way, and there's not a ton I can do about that. But this will sit here, and then the arms are in here between this hinge and this piece, and they'll all snap together like that. Then you can take the arms and you can see these tabs here. They will tab in right there. So bring this in and tab this in down here. And it does tab in pretty snugly. So we will tab those in like that. Then you can just take these little pieces, unhook the wheels, and they'll just fold in, and that basically just makes it so that now the wheels will be able to spin in the vehicle mode. So that's kind of the back. I know that kind of looks like it might be the front of the vehicle mode, but it is the back. Lift this section up, and now we're going to deal with the legs. So we are going to open up these sections here on the back. These little pieces here on the side, which are just kind of covering, you know, the side of the empty leg, these are going to rotate up. Now, you might have some difficulty. I know with mine, and I don't think it's supposed to be this way, but you can see that the pin on mine isn't like pushed in 100% of the way. So sometimes this knocks into that. So just be a little careful. Just kind of lift it up a little bit, or maybe come at it from the other side. There you go. If I lift it over, I don't want to damage the pin and have the leg fall off. But these should spin around like that. Then you're going to take the leg, straighten that out like so. And this is where it gets weird. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we have to spin this 180. So, this is going to fold in on itself. Oh, before I do that, I missed a step. So these these panels on the side are tabbed in. And you're going to untab that. You can see where it was tabbed in right there. And then they're kind of on a weird little ball joint. And so they're going to spin around. And again, you might run into some clearance issues. Just kind of wiggle it around because it is on a ball joint, so it has a little bit of play. So again, untab that. Bring this around. Make sure these are open. Okay, now we're ready. So this is going to fold at the knee. This tab hole right here is eventually going to hit that. And then this has a tab slot here, which is going to hit onto this tab right here. So it can get a little weird. And I will say, you know, the hips, the whole waist likes to move around. The hips like to move around. You just have to try to tame everything and keep it where it's supposed to be as best you can. So bring that in. This will come up. Try to line this up and tab this on. I find it a little easier to tab the sides on first, because then it kind of keeps everything in place. So I kind of tab that on there, and then I can push the foot onto where that's supposed to go. There we go. Make sure that's how that's supposed to go. Actually, this might, I think I missed some. Hold on. See how this has a notch? I think that's supposed to sit in here. So let me undo this. Unhook this. Wiggle, wiggle. Come on. All right, we'll deal with that later. So this is supposed to come up, and this should, I think this is supposed to sit in this notch. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely off base here. You know what? I might just be wrong. Yeah, I think I'm just wrong. I think I just made that whole thing up. I guess this is also an option, to pop this thing off completely off the side, because then it's going to be much easier to just line this peg on here and pop it back on the ball joint. So there we go. That's another option, I guess. It's not a bug, it's a feature. All right. Then we're going to do the same thing here. Spin this around. Make sure that's up there. This will come up here. Eventually this is going to fold in, but we'll get there. And it's just a lot of kind of lining everything up and moving everything around. And there's a lot of clearance issues, honestly. But once you can eventually get this all lined up, how it's supposed to go, and then peg these together and push these down, it's pretty compact. Honestly, once it finally gets to where it's supposed to go, it's pretty compact. So at this point, we can bring this down, and this will peg into these two spots here while also kind of clipping over these two sections here. So moving this into place, although it's really not cooperating. Come on. There we go. And then the last step is just to drop this down like so. I'll have to fiddle with this a little bit. I have something probably just not lined up as correctly as it should be, but there is the vehicle mode all said and done. Honestly, I think the vehicle mode is where Sideswipe really shines. It's definitely my preferred mode out of the two. Just a really cool Cybertronian, sports car looking thing. Really like this quite a bit. You have the nice stripe of the silver paint here, the black here for the kind of side windows. All the red paint on the wheels looks good. You have all this silver down here. That looks really sharp. Rolls really well. You can take the gun and peg that in here so that he has some weaponry while he's flying around. Yeah, just overall, I really like this alt mode. The back, I think, actually looks pretty clean, even though these pieces, it seems like they should peg in, but they don't need to. They don't really get in the way. This is all, this was the chest plate, now that's on the back. Just overall, I think it's a really, really sharp vehicle mode, and I like this quite a bit. I think Sideswipe's fun. I mean, he's definitely not perfect. He has a couple flaws, but I think overall, it's still a good addition to the line. I like that he had his own mold this time. He's not just a repaint of Jazz, so they were able to kind of really, take care of him and really nail the aesthetic of the game. And I think in terms of that, they did a really good job. He's got the little spiky backpack here, which I like. The chest plate looks great here with the Autobot symbol. The arms are on the shoulders instead of the forearms like they were last time. But I will say he's just a little top heavy. He's very wide, and he's got the huge backpack, and then he's got kind of really tiny little skinny legs. They tried to bulk him out a little bit, and honestly, this section's not too bad. I don't love what they did with the feet. I feel like he should have larger feet. The giant heels are a little weird. I will say that they help him stand. I mean, he really doesn't fall over at all, so I'll give him that. But I do miss the ankle tilt. They kind of tried to give us an ankle tilt by kind of, having the plastic be at a slant for the feet, which I kind of appreciate. But, yeah, I would have preferred an actual ankle tilt. So, also, I'm not a huge fan of them casting the forearms in the gray and then painting them. They did a decent job matching, I will say. Like, you just look at it, it's not super apparent. But mine's a little blotchy, and just, over time, I'm afraid that that's going to wear off, as well as because of the paint job, it makes the connection of the forearm very, very tight for when you're trying to take that on and off to integrate the gun into his hand. But luckily, he can just hold it if you prefer that look, so I do like that. So yeah, like I said, overall, I still think he's a fun time. He's definitely not perfect, but I think he's worth picking up because we're starting to really build a nice collection of Gamer Edition figures here, and definitely want Sideswipe to be in the mix. So I think the positives outweigh the negatives, and I think he's definitely still worth checking out, especially if, like me, you can get him this week at Target for $14. He's worth every bit of $14. I can't complain. I mean, that guy is a steal at $14. So definitely recommend checking it out. Just kind of, hamper your expectations, know what you're getting into ahead of time, and I think you'll be fine. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks so much for watching.